Hey, people. Welcome back. Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages. Live stream book reading, group, esoteric words, lots of words. Welcome, everybody. If you would like to help out with these streams, please consider giving a donation using any of the options below in the description. Or consider becoming a YouTube member and getting access to me in the secret Telegram chat. It's secret, though. No one else is allowed to know. Now, exactly. How many ages? All of them. I'd like to be the first here to welcome someone to the stream. Our newest stream member, Carl, the Lorikeet. Parakeet? Say hi, Carl. Bush did 9/11. Shh, Carl. We're not allowed to say these secret things. Carl's going to be here on stream with us from now on. He's just going to be here. I'm just going to hold him. And he's going to absorb esoteric knowledge. Gotta, like, hug him in close. Isn't that right? Good boy. Shh. Shh. Don't tell the secrets, Carl. Now, let's introduce Carl to everyone in the chat. Esoteric programmer. Howdy. Welcome. I see you've got your occult practice going balls deep. Hour-long meditation. That's really good. If you can keep an hour-long meditation for like 1,000 days, that's solid. That's solid. You've noticed drastic big changes in under a week. You finished Damien Eccles' book and started Franz Barden. Nice. Based. That's pretty based. Hey, Carl. Another guy, welcome. Petro's in the chat. Necrodancer, as always. Welcome, Necrodancer. Tyler, glad you can make it. Those cookies sound good. Biscuits. And another guy, you finished the Thomas Carlson book. Excellent. So it is good? It is good? Excellent. Bob's Boss Mans. Welcome, Boss Mans. No Coiner. Welcome. Surf in the chat. Get to work. Address the Grand Wizard. I don't think Grand Wizard has the same... In America, you're not allowed to call me a Grand Wizard. That doesn't work. Kimberly, welcome. Yes. We've got the plushie. Howdy, Cactus. Welcome to the live. Now, let's just jump into it. Chapter 2. It's going to get exciting, Carl. We've been reading through ancient mysteries, and we've gotten up to something that's the mysteries of Asar-Hapi. So we're going to get Egyptian. Do you like Egyptian stuff, Carl? Great. The identity of the Greco-Egyptian Serapis, known to the Greeks as Serapis, and to the Egyptians as Asar-Hapi. Okay, so Serapis is the god with the massive dong. Kind of think of it, he's a god of fertility, arts, you know, that kind of thing, and it's a masculine figure as well. Also, Greco-Egyptian, I remember saying Greco-Egyptian once, someone being like, what's Greco-Egyptian? And it's like, it's when the Romans conquered Egypt, and he was like, shouldn't it be Roman-Egyptian? And it's like, no, because the culture was Greco, as in the Egyptians spoke Greek. They talked in ancient Greek, they absorbed the Greek part of the Roman Empire civilization. So it's Greco-Egyptian. No Coiner. Manly is such a base name. Dude had aura right out of the womb. I know, right? Tape him to... What? I'm going to hold Carl the entire stream. What if I just have him like this? So it's just like, he's just there. Just there. Carl's over my heart. Carl is my heart. It's fine when he's like this. Isn't that right, Carl? Isn't that right? So, Hapi, the god of the Nile. Asar-Hapi. That's interesting. So I don't know who Asar is. What the Asar part of the name connected to Hapi means. So we're going to hopefully learn about that. It's shrouded by an impenetrable veil of mystery. Maybe not. While this deity was a familiar figure among the symbols of the secret Egyptian initiatory rites, his arcane nature was revealed only to those who had fulfilled the requirements of the Serapic cultus. Very interesting. And it would be, because a lot of those cults to do with fertility gods, like, Demeter, very, very often connect to initiation, because it's like fertility. And that would usually connect to grain, which is, where does grain come out of? Out of the ground. Where do all of the initiatory rites usually happen? Usually in underground caverns. It was always, you go underground, because the underworld was connected to the inner world. And it's, where does initiation happen? To go upwards, to ascend, you have to first descend. So there's this descent, and it's all connected to the fertility gods and goddesses. So it doesn't surprise me that there'd definitely be some esoteric stuff there. And of course, with Serapis being a phallic symbol, you always gotta work with those creative energies. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, Carl? Burb. In all probability, expecting the initiated priests, the Egyptians themselves, were ignorant of his true character. So far as known, there exists no authentic account of the rites of Serapis, R.I.P. But an analysis of the deity and his accompanying symbols reveals their salient points. In an oracle delivered to the king of Cyprus, Serapis described himself thus: "A god I am, such as I show to thee. The starry heavens are my head, my trunk the sea." That's interesting. So the stars and the sea, very interesting for navigators. "Earth forms my feet, mine ears the air supplies." So we've got all four elements here. The sun, far darting. For a second there I thought it said farting. "Far darting, brilliant rays, mine eyes." Okay. So Serapis is one of these very interesting entities that encompasses all of creation. And, Serapis, he's usually shown with a massive phallus, so it's that life force, so it's this, he's the life force behind all of creation. Isn't that right, Carl? So the life force that imbues Carl and gives him life, and that imbues all of us, is Serapis. Kind of like Serapis is almost like the Holy Spirit in that sense. Very interesting. Howdy, Adamu. Welcome. Just spotted you there in chat. Surf says, "Did you know you can't do Isis fertility rituals without sacrificing a minor creature? Really? Damn." No coiner. "I tell all the ladies if they want..." You gotta get down first. Bruh. Bruh. Anyway. Several unsatisfactory attempts have been made to etymologize the word Serapis. Godfrey Higgins, Mr. Higgins, notes that George Soros, of course, Soros was the name given by the Egyptians to a stone coffin. That's interesting. So George Soros is literally George Mr. Death or whatever. George Cemetery. Good lord. And Apis was Osiris. Incarnate in the sacred bull. Okay. Apis was Osiris the bull. Okay. These two words combined result in Saurus Apis. Is that the name of the chapter? No, it's Asir. But a Saurus Apis, that's interesting. Interesting. Or Saur Apis. Ah, okay. The tomb of the bull. But it is improbable that the Egyptians would worship a coffin in the form of a man. Exactly. Isn't that right, Carl? Several ancient authors, including Macrobius, have affirmed that Serapis was a name for the sun because his image so often had a halo of light about its head. In his oration upon the sovereign sun, Julian speaks of the deity in these words: "One Jove, one Pluto, one sun is Serapis." In Hebrew, Serapis is Saraph. Saraph, that's interesting. So what is it? Who in the chat was it that was saying they keep getting it confused with Serapis with Seraph? Yeah, another guy. So yeah, exactly. That's what Manly's basically saying, that Serapis, that they're the same thing almost, meaning to blaze out or to blaze up. To blaze up, Jesus. Manly, that doesn't mean what you think it means. For this reason, the Jews designated one of their hierarchies or spiritual beings as seraphim, the blazing ones. The most common theory, however, regarding the origin of the seraphs is that which traces its derivation, sorry, I'm just dyslexic, take a shot, from the compound Osiris Apis. At one time, the Egyptians believed that the dead were absorbed into the nature of Osiris, the god of the dead. Okay, hold on. The compound of Osiris. At one time, the Egyptians believed that the dead were absorbed into the nature of Osiris. That's interesting. So they believed fundamentally that human souls were just like drops that return to a uni being. Very interesting. So basically Dark Souls is correct in its theology. Like, humanity is just one soul that's just been fractured into little souls, and we all got to come together into one Dark Soul, Osiris. The god, Osiris, the god of the, and we're the god of the dead. So also not just Dark Souls, but also 40k, the Eldar, with the god of the dead thing. It's all making sense now. All of this media, Dark Souls, 40k, it's all really just race memory of secret ancient Egyptian and Atlantean mythology and magic. It's real. It's all real. All of it. While marked similarity exists between Osiris, Apis, and Serapis, the theory advanced by Egyptologists that Serapis is merely a name given to the dead Apis, or sacred bull of Egypt, is untenable in view of the transcendent wisdom possessed by the Egyptian priests. The material body of nature was called Apis. The soul which escaped from the body at death but was enmeshed with the form during physical life was designated Serapis. So very, very intriguing, very, what would you say it like, very detailed cosmology they got there. Very interesting. The Alexandrian Serapis. Where is his huge dong? This is false propaganda. This is fake news here, this image. The Alexandrian Serapis from Musée des Musées, Histoire des Hébreux Wijskerke? Is that like French or German? What the hell's going on there? Is that Dutch or something? That looks Dutch. Serapis is often shown standing on the back of the sacred crocodile. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. Wonder if he has any connection with, what is it, Sebek then, the god Sebek. Carrying in his left hand a rule, very Freemasonic, with which to measure the inundations of the Nile, and balancing with his right hand a curious emblem consisting of an animal with the heads. The first head, that of a lion, signified the present. The second head, that of a wolf, the past. Lion and wolf, very interesting combo. The third head, that of a dog, very interesting. The future, huh? That's interesting. Just like think about that for a second. So wolf head, the wolf and the dog. Whenever you see wolf and dog connected, that's interesting symbolism, because what is a wolf? But you could say like an untamed, or the wolf and the dog are the same symbol, but the wolf is the untamed, the wild force, whereas like a dog is then tamed by man. It's civilized. So the past is the thing that's untamed, and the dog, the future, is the thing that's tamed. Makes me wonder if they don't got that reversed or something. That's interesting. And then the lion is the present, which is interesting as well. The solar aspect is the present. The key to the solar aspect is in the present. Isn't that right, Carl? Carl's excited. The body, with its 3 heads, was enveloped by the twisted coils of a serpent. So we got almost a demiurgic... the way the demiurge is described in the Pistis Sophia, the triple-headed power. So it's this serpentine force with a triple-headed, kind of the triple-faced head. Instead of just a lion head, it's got triple faces. Figures of Serapis are occasionally accompanied by Cerberus, another triple-headed being, the triple-headed dog of Pluto this time, and, like Jupiter, carrying baskets of grain upon their head. And he's got a little bird there. You like the bird there, Carl? Carl likes the burb. C.W. Kang believes Serapis to be a deity of Brahmanic extraction, his name being the Grecanized form of Serdar or Sripar, the 2 titles ascribed to Yama. Okay, the Hindu god of death. This appears reasonable, especially since there is a legend to the effect that Serapis, in the form of a bull, was driven by Bacchus from India to Egypt. The priority of the Hindu mysteries would further substantiate such a theory. Among other meanings suggested for the word Serapis are the sacred bull. That one's self-explanatory. The sun in Taurus, the soul of Osiris, the sacred serpent, and the retiring of the bull. The last appellation has reference to the ceremony of drowning the sacred Apis in the waters of the Nile every 25 years. Drowning the bull in waters, that is such an interesting symbolism. Because drowning the bull or killing the bull, like you still see, I mean, you know, bullfighting with El Salvador, you know, that kind of thing. That's, like you could say, a remnant of this Atlantean tradition of killing a bull. Is symbolic in mystery schools of, you know, killing the lower self, the brutal self, the part of us that's animalistic, slaying it or taming it. So drowning it in waters is interesting because that's alchemical. You're dissolving the bull in the waters. You're dissolving the brute mercury. You're dissolving the hard metals so something else can be crystallized in its place. Carl looking like an evil eunuch standing behind the emperor spewing malice. He whispers things in my ear. Secrets. Carl is the keeper of secrets. Tzeentch. Necrodancer says, Tzeentch's demons often embody change, mutation, and sorcery with bird-like forms, reflecting his themes of hidden wisdom and cruelty. Exactly, Necrodancer. Oh yeah, Kimberly, that's actually a really good point as well. Gilgamesh and Enkidu also killed a sacred bull. It's all coming together. It's all coming together. So interesting. There is considerable evidence that the famous statue of Serapis in the Serapeum at Alexandria was originally worshipped under another name at Sinope, from which it was brought to Alexandria. They just refurbished an ancient god statue as a different god? There is also legend which tells that Serapis was a very early king of the Egyptians, to whomst they owed the foundation of their philosophical and scientific power. It's always interesting when a ancient king is from prehistory is deified, because that's what they also believe that of Osiris. Osiris was actually a dude. Perhaps even Odin as well is sometimes accused of this, that these are deified humans from an ancient epoch, prehistory. Post-Atlantis, but prehistory. Gurdjieff was right. After his death, this king was elevated to the estate of a god. Philarchus declared that the word Serapis means the power that disposed the universe into its present beautiful order. I wonder where that guy jerked that meaning out of, you know what I mean? So basically, yeah, exactly, another guy. Exactly. This is why Lord of Mysteries is just... The reason why Lord of Mysteries is king is just because he has built a historical foundation for his entire stories, and it just gives not just a metaphysic, but a historical foundation. So he's got temporal power and celestial authority coming into one. Like, some stories have good do history really well, and some stories do good cosmology, but very rarely do you see a guy who world builds in that way so well. Like, it's really well done. Like, Lord of Mysteries on par. It's the modern day Tolkien. Let's be real. And all other fantasy kind of got trapped by Tolkien, not because of Tolkien, but because of the book producers. I'm just going to go off on a little rant on the publishing industry that just wanted to capitalize, and so they were like, the book publishers in the fantasy field deliberately screwed over fantasy authors after Tolkien, because they just wanted to reenact Tolkien. They just wanted to do Tolkien and nothing else. Oh, what's that? You got slight sci-fi elements in your fantasy novel? Sorry, Terry Brooks, but we're not going to publish Sword of Shannara until you extricate that and just make it more bland fantasy. Make it a Tolkien clone so that we can get more money. And it kind of locked the fantasy industry after Tolkien in the book publishing world. So it's like, it took years and years to break out of that, but I don't know. Lord of Mysteries is just, yeah, it's the only one that I've seen that just does both so well. I'm just glazing Lord of Mysteries again. Damn it, another guy. Don't distract me. Deified humans or deified ETs? Boss man? No, it's deified humans, okay? ETs are just a breakaway civilization of humans that time travel anyway, okay? Adamo. Lord of Mysteries, the Chinese web novel? Yes. Candy Stuffed Corpse. Welcome to the live stream. I gotta do a Lord of Mysteries video one day, just being like, it's the most esoteric web novel. Giorgiani speaks of this exactly, Kimberly, exactly. Now, back to it. In his Isis and Osiris, Plutarch gives the following account of the origin of the magnificent status of Serapis, which stood in the Serapeum at Alexandria. While he was pharaoh of Egypt, Ptolemy Soter had a strange dream in which he beheld a tremendous statue, which came to life. A tremendous statue came to life. The Hermetic Corpus speaks of this, and ordered the pharaoh to bring to Alexandria with all possible speed. Okay, so this is how the statue of Serapis came to Alexandria. Ptolemy Soter, not only knowing the whereabouts of the statue, was sorely perplexed as to how he could discover it. While the pharaoh was relating his dream, a great traveler by the name Sosibius, coming forward, detected that he had seen such an image at Sinope. The pharaoh immediately dispatched Sotiles, what is with these names, boy, and Dionysus, a guy called Dionysus, to negotiate for the removal of the figure to Alexandria. 3 years elapsed before the image was finally obtained, the representatives of the pharaoh finally stealing it and they stole it and concealing the theft by spreading a story that the statue had come to life and walked down the street. I know, that's a badass story though. Leading from its temple and had boarded the ship prepared for its transportation to Alexandria. Upon its arrival in Egypt, the figure was brought into the presence of 2 Egyptian initiates. The God, what is this name? Eumolpid Timotheus, Jesus Christ, and Menepher, the Sebonite, I bet he was a Sebonite, who immediately pronounced it to be Serapis. The priests then declared that it was what is this? Equivalent to Pluto. Okay. Oh, Serapis has underworld qualities. Very interesting. This was a masterly stroke. For Serapis, the Greeks and Egyptians found a deity in common, and thus religious unity was consummated between the two nations. They made the Peepee's touch esoterically. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thought I be but a wretched gooner. I can be more. Yes, you can, Candy Stuffed. Thank you for the $2, by the way. Another guy, yes, spread Lotum into esoteric circles. I want to see Lotum-inspired occult systems. Lotum is just Golden Dawn Kabbalah, bro. The Sissy Boyus better. Yes, Kimberly. There's Sissy Boyus in all esoteric systems. The Catholic Church is very good at using femboys for their rituals. Tyler comes back. Biscuits made. Now you can focus. Excellent. Excellent. And Neo-Stoicism, we're talking about Giorgiani's, yes. Many such cases. We need some Promethean femboys. And more manly peepees. Yes, yes, indeed. Thank you, Manly. Let's dive more into manly peepees. Several figures of Serapis that stood pardon me, Carl, that stood in various temples in Egypt and Rome have been described by early authors. Nearly all these showed Grecian rather than Egyptian influence. In some, the body of the god was encircled by coils of a great serpent, very Mithraic. Others showed him as a composite of Osiris and Apis, so a god with a bull god. Okay, so is it a bull with a dude's head or a dude with a bull's head? Also, thank you. I was going to say no coiner. Thank you, coin no. I mean, the other way around. Wasn't going to super chat until Peepee's touched. Everyone should super chat for Peepee's touching. A description of the god that in all probability is reasonably accurate is that which represents him as a tall, powerful figure, very father-like, who goes out and gets milk and doesn't come home, conveying the twofold impressions of manly strength and womanly grace. His face portrayed a deep, pensive mood, the expression inclining towards sadness. His hair was long and arranged in somewhat feminine manner, resting in curls upon his breast and shoulders. His face, save for his heavy beard, was also decidedly feminine. Damn, boy. The figure of Serapis was usually robed from head to foot in heavy draperies, believed by initiates to conceal the fact that the body was androgynous. Dear God. How does a tall, powerful figure convey womanly grace? I guess because it's like the hairstyle. Think of like Fabio. It's like some big buff dude, but then he's got like gorgeous flowing hair. Not another drapery. Doth mother know you weareth her drapes? Maybe it was the double D's. Maybe it was the Daisy Jukes, you never know. Various substances were used in making the statues of Serapis. Thank you, Scouse, for the £5. Some undoubtedly were carved from stone or marble by skilled craftsmen. Others may have been cast from base or precious metals. So you could have had like a golden, like Serapis with like silver breasts or something. One colossus of Serapis was composed of plates of various metals fitted together. Interesting. That would be really alchemical to see what what metals were used where. In a labyrinth, Sacred to Serapis stood a 13-foot statue of him reputed to have been made from a single emerald. Oh, dang. Oh, we're getting hermetic now. Giant emerald statue. Modern writers discussing this image state that it was made of green glass. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Poured into a mold. We got to get more green glass happening. And just calling it emerald just for the lols. Isn't there right, Carl? Carl agrees. Carl's happy about that. According to the Egyptians, however, it withstood all the tests of an actual emerald. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Very interesting. Clement, I love green glass because Elder Scrolls just, you know, those glass claymores just really come in clutch. Clement of Alexandria describes a figure of Serapis compounded from the following elements. First, fillings of gold, silver, lead, and tin. Second, all manner of Egyptian stones, including sapphires, hematites, emeralds, and topazes. All these being ground down and mixed together with the colouring matter left over from the funeral of Osiris and Apis. The result was a rare and curious figure. Indigo in colour, very interesting, because you're combining elements to get something purplish. Indigo, very alchemical. Green glass is good because it often houses delicious whiskey. Really? Do you drink whiskey out of a green glass? That's interesting. We need to become esoteric alcoholics. We got to do an alcoholic stream one day. Some of the statues of Serapis must have been formed of extremely hard substances. For when a Christian soldier carrying out the edict of Theodosius struck the Alexandrian Serapis with his axe, the instrument was shattered into fragments and sparks flew from it. I like to think that the guy hit the dick and the axe head exploded. That's what I believe happened in my head. That's the headcanon. Manly doesn't say that, but in my head, that's what happened. It is also quite probable that Serapis was worshipped in the form of a serpent, because of the pee-pee. In common with many of the higher deities of the Greek, of the Egyptian and Greek pantheons. Very good stuff. This is all so esoteric. Serapis was called Theon. This is interesting. Theon Heptagrammaton. So that's Theo God Heptagrammaton. Hepta is 7, and grammaton, so is the 7-letter name. Serapis is the 7-lettered name of God, or God of the name of 7 letters. Oh, I should have just kept reading. The name Serapis, like Abraxas and Mithras, contains 7 letters. Oh my God, all one. Oh my God, it's all connected. Mithras is the key to everything here. Key to the solar mysteries. Contains 7 letters. In their hymns to Serapis, the priests chanted the 7 vowels. Oh my God. And the vowels themselves, this is connecting to esoteric letter magic, esoteric masonry. Oh my God, it's all coming together. Oh! Occasionally, Serapis is depicted with horns, or a coronet. What is of 7 rays? What exactly does a coronet look like? Let's get it on. Paste and go. Okay, so it's specifically one of these fancy crowns. What's the difference between a crown and a coronet? So what you usually think of a crown is actually a coronet. In essence, a crown is the headwear of a monarch, symbolizing sovereignty and power, while a coronet is similar head ornament worn by members of the nobility. Oh! So crowns are just for kings and coronets are just nobles who want to be a little bit more fancy. Interesting. Crowns and coronet, it's kind of like what is it? The crying Wojak and the Chad face. The coronets are the crying Wojak to the Chad crowns, just like looking at them and saying yes. Is that what this is? I mean, they look really similar, bro. But anyway, but that's interesting. It's implying there, by the fact that it's a coronet and not a crown, it's implying this aristocratic nobility, but not supreme sovereign power in a sense. So Serapis isn't this celestial sovereign. He's this chthonic Pluto serpentine power connected to fertility, connected to Mithraeus and Abraxas, who also has serpents for legs. And he wears a coronet. And so the coronet still makes him, very, gives him that nobility. Gives him some kind of authority and power, but he's not a celestial sovereign. It's not that, it's a different kind of esoteric. Very interesting, though. Coronets versus croissants. Tyler on the baking bench. Oh, Kimberly's going to go to England. If you go to England, Kimberly, you got to stop by Watkins bookstore and also the Atlantis bookshop. Atlantis bookshop's probably the oldest continuous esoteric bookshop, but it's I think the lineage of who owns it kind of shifted, because it used to be owned. It's got started by a guy called Michael Just, who was a poet, and also Michael Just was the student of the guy who wrote The Dayspring of Youth. That's what makes the Atlantis bookshop really interesting. But it's now owned, I think he died and it got passed around to a bunch of people. I think 2 witches bought it, and so they're nice, but it's like, it's not as esoteric as it was when Michael Just kind of ran it, but nonetheless, it's very famous. And then Watkins bookshop is like massive occult headquarters. Like, let's go. Like if I had the money, I'd hop over there right now. But nonetheless, what's that Adamu saying in the chat? Some believe that the Ark was either an energy weapon or a radioactive material because of the description. Yeah, yes, people do believe that. Now, wait, coronet. These evidently represented the 7 divine intelligences, manifesting through solar light. That's interesting as well, actually, because I was talking about it's not the celestial sovereign, but it's still a coronet with 7 rays. So it's still this thing, it's from this very Promethean, from the deep ever upward. It's not just this chthonic thing, it's this thing from the deep coming upwards. We're ascending. Like a phallus ascending to the heavens. A drill that pierces the heavens. You see, Tengen Toppan Gurren Lagann is actually the most esoteric anime. The Encyclopedia Britannica. Quoting the encyclopedia here, let's go. Before Wikipedia, Encyclopedia Britannica notes that the earliest authentic mention of Serapis is in connection with the death of Alexander. Such was the prestige of Serapis that he alone of the gods was consulted in behalf of the dying king. The Egyptian secret school of philosophy was divided into lesser and greater mysteries, the former being sacred to Isis, the latter to Serapis and Osiris. That's interesting. So minor mysteries were Isis, were feminine, and the greater mysteries were masculine and Osiris-like. So this also connects, you could say, to Kabbalah. In esoteric Kabbalah, there's kind of 2 gods that are one, but there's the transcendental God and the God that's immanent. So there's a God within you. You feel God within you, and that God is reflected in nature. That God is feminine. But then there's a transcendental God that's distant from you. That's eternal, and that God is masculine. But really, they're both one. And it's like Unio Mystica, there's this reunion, there's this reunification between the God within you, the feminine and the masculine, the divine marriage. So it's interesting that the Egyptians also have this, hence, the Jews in exile went to Egypt and were reborn, were recreated in Egypt. Exactly, panentheism, Tyler. This is panentheistic esotericism at its best. And it's hard because it's like people like, oh, you put the women in the lesser mysteries. And it's like, so you can be like, and the unmanifest, the unmanifested, even beyond the masculine principle, is also feminine then, because it's like the dark womb where everything comes from. Blah, 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 blah. Get over it, guys. We tier rank them for a reason. But it's like the woman is this, the feminine part is usually this chthonic thing. It's interesting why it's like Serapis. In some places, they switch the genders for whatever reason. Another guy saying, Richard, esoteric significance of British Museum hogging or hogging all the historical relics. People are going to hate me for this, and this is an unpopular opinion, but yes, look. The British Museum does steal a lot of shit from other cultures. Here's the thing, though. How many times do you hear stories of some guy found a bunch of sacred manuscripts in a cave and was like, oh, look, material for fire, and started burning them before it occurred to him that he could sell these? And it just got passed between a bunch of dudes until finally some French guy who knew Coptic translated them and was like, oh my god, these are esoteric philosophical texts that, like, will revolutionize the field. And it's like, people in other countries don't necessarily keep their own history, let alone a previous culture's history, all that well. People have a respect. There's this weird dissonance between a respect for the past and also just leaving old relics all over the place, or just burning them down and refurbishing them and not caring for them at all. On one level, the British colonialists, how dare they, take all the stuff from the Greek museum and take all this stuff from the Greeks and, hog all of this and hog all of that. And, the British have so much to pay for, and the British Museum, it's just a racket. On another level, really unpopular opinion, a lot of that stuff, look at me in the eyes and tell me, if the British didn't rescue a lot of that stuff, would it have been kept in as good a quality? Would we even have it? Really unpopular opinion, because people are like, oh no, colonialism, but yeah. Esoteric reason? You want to know? That's the esoteric reason. The esoteric reason is the spirits allowed it because on some level the British were able to preserve it better than others. So it's karmic punishment for those civilizations for not holding their own past correctly. Tyler asks, same with the Vatican. Vatican is a little bit different. And Vatican on some level, things get donated to them and they just chuck it. And they just chuck it into their pile. Vatican's a whole other beast to talk about. They're a whole other beast. They've been around way longer than the British have. And there's layers and layers to go in with the Vatican. It's a bit yeah. It's a little different. It's a little different for them. For them, it's like they don't necessarily care about history of other nations. They arbitrarily would just burn. They would burn it. They didn't keep it alive. It's the British who are like autistic British people who just wanted to anthropologically, autistically categorize things. So they just stole and made huge collections. The Vatican didn't do that. The Vatican just burnt stuff that they didn't like. Or if there was like a Catholic priest that, helped out a local tribe and the local tribe gave him some gold tablets, anything you give or donate to a Catholic priest doesn't belong to the priest. It technically belongs to the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Church would just get random stuff, and because it's a gift, they'd be like, we don't fucking care, and they just dump it in the Vatican archives. There's a lot of people, I don't know, they want to make it more nefarious, but it's like, it's hard, bro, because you have to understand how big the Vatican archives are. When you I think if you look up how big the Vatican archives are, if it stretches, if you were to place the archives in a line, it would go on for 80 kilometers or something ridiculous. It's absolutely massive. To try and kilometers. What the hell's a kilometer? What's that in miles? It goes on for a really it's massive. It's massive. Just think of how massive it is. And it's like, if before you even think about them hiding things, you have to think of the idea that it's like you can barely find things as it is in the Vatican. It's like to even if you went to the Vatican, even if you did get permission to just free reign in there, how would you even find the book that you would want? And if you did find secret arcane texts, you would need both a translator and some historical guy to restore the paper, some guy who would know the dialect, and then you need to translate. It's because it's not just Latin, it's like some obscure Latin that's a weird dialect, and it's like, ugh, there's just layers and layers of the Vatican. But anyway, we're going off topic here. XXT in the chat. Welcome. Do you know how to interpret all the Isis tablets? This book has a chapter on that, and it's been filtering me. Okay. Well, we'll see when we get there. We'll see if Carl knows. Carl's got all the secrets to the universe. He doesn't. He tells me sometimes. I'll email Pope Leo to digitize everything. Do they digitize some of the archives? I think they try to. But once again, if they want to, there's multiple barriers to getting stuff there anyway. And if what I'm trying to say is, if they wanted to hide something on top of that, you're just never going to find it. So boohoo. We just need to learn ancient Latin and how to remote view. Easy. That's harder than you think, because here's the thing about remote viewing. We're going off massive tangents here. Here's the thing about remote viewing they've done tests with. They'll say, like, they'll get 5 remote viewers to remote view, and they'll be like, remote view what's in this room, and there'll be a guy in a room writing something on a piece of paper, and all the remote viewers will get the guy, and some will get his, like, say what color t-shirt he is, or they'll even get his action, like he's writing something, but no one will get what he's writing. There's something about analytical data that doesn't pick up when you're remote viewing. It's like that part of the brain that's analytical needs to kind of pacify for you to actually remote view. So it's like the data that you want, because it's like you can give a remote viewer coordinates and they can remote view what's at the coordinates, but you will never go, hey, where's Osama bin Laden? And the remote viewer will, like, respond with exact coordinates. They won't respond with, the remote viewer will be like, Osama bin Laden, I remote viewed him and he's in a cave. And it's like, what, where? I just told you he's in a cave. It's like, that's not how it works. So unfortunately, you can remote view the Vatican archives, but you're just going to see a bunch of books. You're not necessarily going to get what's in them. Maybe just go straight to the Akashic records. That's all we can hope for. Chevalus in the chat, welcome. Yeah, we burden up here. We burden. Now, greater and lesser mysteries. Wilkinson, get me my coffee, is of the opinion that only the priests were permitted to enter the greater mysteries. Interesting. May be true. In temples, in temple magic, only the clergy would have access to the greater mysteries. It's usually when you see stuff that's away from the temples, the tantric stuff in the forests, or the mystery schools that just do it kind of away from the city. The Eleusinian mysteries would allow anyone, even a criminal, to be initiated. So that's very possible, Wilkinson. Very good, Wilkinson. Very bold. Even the heir to the throne was not eligible until he had been crowned pharaoh, when by virtue of his kingly office, he automatically became a priest and the temporal head of the state religion. See Wilkinson's Manners and Customs of the Egyptians. Very good. A limited number were admitted into the greater mysteries. These preserved their secrets inviolate? How do you pronounce that? Anyway. Sorry, Carl. Much of the information concerning the rituals of the higher degrees of the Egyptian mysteries has been gleaned from an examination of the chambers and passageways in which the initiators were given. Under the temple, of Serapis, destroyed by Theodosius, what a bitch, were found strange mechanical contrivances constructed by the priests in the subterranean crypts and caverns where the doctrinal initiatory rites were celebrated. These machines indicate the severe tests of moral and physical courage undergone by the candidates. After passing through these torturous ways, the neophytes who survived the ordeals were ushered into the presence of Serapis, a noble and awe-inspiring figure illumined by unseen lights. So that's one thing that's perpetuated. Hey, Voices in the Wilderness, welcome. That's one thing that's perpetuated. I've heard people say a lot. I'm not sure if it's ever historic. I doubt it's historically instantiated, but I've heard people in esoteric circles say in ancient Egypt, one of the first tests, their version of the Guardian of the Threshold, is you walk down this like dark hallway, and basically there's a door there, but there's also a guy waiting in the shadows, and as you come close to the doorway, the guy hops out and he's got a sword and he like screams and runs at you. Ah! And it like, the idea is you're supposed to be courageous and open your arms to death and embrace him, and if you embrace him, you pass the test and he lets you through. But if you turn and run, he cuts you down and you insta-die. And it's like hardcore, bro. Hardcore. But that's very interesting. Did I just read this? Sorry. Much of information regarding the rituals. Yeah, sorry, mechanical contrivances. The machines indicate the sphere tests of morale. Yes, undergone by candidates after passing through torturous ways. The neophytes who survived the ordeals were ushered to the presence. Yeah, a noble and awe-inspiring figure illumined by unseen lights. Interesting. So that's also perpetuated in a lot of modern esoteric schools. Any school that involve Western esoteric schools will usually, for their neophyte rituals, will usually blindfold you, and you'll go through circumambulations or whatever, and there'll be a guy, you know, doing the rite, speaking. Usually you'll pass through 4 elements or something, but at the end of the ritual, you get the blindfold taken off, and the first words uttered are usually Fiat Lux or allow me to extend your light or something like that. Extension of light is a very initiatic, dare I say, initiatic quality. So it's very interesting that there's a figure illumined by lights after coming through many ordeals. A symbolic labyrinth from Montefaucon's Antiques. It's interesting that there's a centaur in the middle, or half man, half beast, but not a minotaur, a centaur. Labyrinths and mazes were favored places of initiation among many ancient cults. Remains of these mystic mazes have been found among the ancient Indians, Hindus, Persians, Egyptians, and Greeks. Some of these mazes are merely involved pathways lined with stones. Others are literally miles of gloomy caverns under temples or hollowed from the sides of mountains. The famous labyrinth of Crete, in which roamed the bull-headed Minotaur, was unquestionably a place of initiation into the Cretan mysteries. 100%. And imagine that for initiation. You get put in a labyrinth and you need to find your way to the center to become an initiate, but there's also a monster or a demon in the labyrinth, and if the monster finds you, then you die. So it's not just that you need to find your way through the darkness, but you also need to avoid the obstructions in the darkness. So some people hit a dead end, some people will fall to black magic. Very few make it to the center and become illuminated. You must make it to the center. It's all so pee-pee strong. The initiatic symbolism in the Western mysteries just gets me throbbing, guys. Anyone else? Anyone else? Labyrinths were also a striking feature in connection with the Rice of Serapis, I bet it was, and E.A. Wallace Budge, Mr. Based himself, in his Gods of the Egyptians, depicts Serapis Minotaur-like, with the body of a man and the head of a bull. Labyrinths were symbolic of the involvements and illusions of the lower world through which wanderers of the soul of man in its search of truth. In the labyrinth dwells the lower animal, man with the head of a bull, who seeks to destroy the soul entangled in the maze of worldly ignorance. In this relation, Serapis becomes the trier or adversary who tests the soul of those seeking union with the immortals. Very interesting. So Serapis, as this chthonic bull entity, then is also the like a kind of a demiurgic thing that oppresses you. Very interesting. Another guy asks, isn't left-hand rituals about dying and being reborn as an initiated? Indeed. I mean, it's hard. Left and right, they're nebulous terms, and it's like the thing that I think makes the distinction between left and right is basically antinomianism, which is right-hand path, no matter what it is, whether it includes sexual energy or doesn't, or includes temple magic or doesn't, the right-hand path will always say something like, follow these morals or laws, and because this following laws is intrinsic and intrinsically connected to spiritual progress and spiritual advancement. Whereas the left-hand path, every single thing that claims to be left-hand path, whatever it has, whether it's also temple magic or not, or includes sexual energy or not, or includes weird rites or not, all left-hand path schools or systems will say the adherence to laws, sacred laws or moral laws or otherwise, are unnecessary. They're not connected in any way whatsoever to spiritual development or progress. That seems to be what makes a system left-hand or not. That's how that's a bit here or there, but yeah. People of ancient times would either cry, laugh, or both at the state of initiation rituals nowadays. Probably. I mean, probably weep. Probably weep. The maze was also doubtless used to represent the solar system. Interesting. The bull representing the sun dwelling in the mystic maze of its planets, moons, and asteroids. I don't know about that interpretation. I don't know about that. If it's the solar system, then the bull would be like... I think the monster in the labyrinth is more like this Leviathan weird thing that's just lurking about in the cosmos that tries to get you as you try to make progress. The Gnostic mysteries, we're getting back to the Gnostics, baby, let's go. Does facing the dragon have any hermetic meaning, asks esoteric programmer, like Smaug from The Hobbit? I mean, yeah. The dragon is also this symbolic of this thing that must be overcome or transmuted, because what's the dragon? The dragon is the opposite of the Sphinx, whereas the Sphinx is a symbol of the four elements, because an actual Sphinx is lion, fire, bull, earth, human or angel, water, and it also has the wings of an eagle, so air. So it's a combination of the four elements. The dragon is also a combination of the four elements. It breathes fire, it lives in caves, earth, it has the scales of fish, water, and it also flies and has wings, so it's air. But the dragons are usually seen as this negative combination. It's this dragon thing that you need to go into the underworld and face it and transmute it and defeat it. And what do dragons keep? Dragons keep gold, baby. Let's go. That's why you got to face the dragon. Outtuition. Was busy tonight, but I'll go back and watch what I missed. How's everyone been? Howdy, Outtuition. We've been good. I think we've been good. Kimberly says, if the bull is the demiurge, it makes sense to be the sun then. Yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. In that context, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. John the Cactus says, dragon is pure raw power. Yep. Yeah. Agreed. Scowl says, dragons are often shown to be very intelligent too. So yeah, there's this other thing called, like, concept. It's kind of like the dragon of wisdom. That's the thing that, and also let's not get confused between Eastern dragons and Western dragon symbolism. There's a big difference there. But yeah, even in the West, you sometimes get someone called a dragon of wisdom because the serpents are wise and dragons are basically serpents. Yes. Another guy asks, aren't dragons also kind of symbolic of the left hand? Yes. Because you gotta, in this case, it's working with Typhon, working with the dragon, being, you know, kind of grinding against this thing. Out tuition says in Jordan Peterson voice, the feminine dragon of chaos must be overcome by masculine hero. It all goes back to Marduk versus Tiamat. The Sumerians knew. The Sumerians knew. Yes. Jordan Benzo Peterson. I wonder what he's up to nowadays. Good old Jordan Benzo Peterson. He's all right. He's all right. Just stick to his psychological lectures and he's fine. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of Jordan Peterson. The Gnostic mysteries were acquainted with the arcane meaning of Serapis. Okay, so this is interesting. So he's claiming that the Gnostics had knowledge of this. I guess definitely the Ophites would have been into this kind of stuff. And through the medium of Gnosticism, this god became inextricably associated with early Christianity. And so this is interesting because remember, I connected Serapis to the triple-headed power and the pistis of fear. And if, you know, Serapis plays this part of the bull in the maze and has this demiurgic quality, then it kind of connects. It does. PP getting strong, guys. PP getting strong. In fact, the Emperor Hadrian, while traveling in Egypt in AD 24, what a time to be alive, declared in a letter to Servianus, this guy, straight up, that guy sounds like a vampire. Like, this is, House of Servianus is definitely a vampire house. Straight up, no lie. That the worshippers of Serapis were Christians, and that the bishops of the church also worshipped at his shrine. I mean, they do like femboys, so it wouldn't surprise me. He even declared that the patriarch himself, when in Egypt, was forced to adore Serapis as well as Christ. This is early Christianity is very interesting, mind you, very interesting. We're getting we're getting real interesting here. Cockatiel. My cockatiel finds it very interesting. Yes. See Parsons' new light of the Great Pyramid. This is also connecting to the Christianity being a continuation of the Egyptian mysteries. This is the thing everyone's like, oh, Christianity. You should go back to paganism, and it's like Christianity with its Egyptian theology, its Neoplatonic backbone, its Mithraic symbols, and its central prophet figure being Jesus Christ, whose story has a lot borrowed from it from Apollonius of Tyana, the Hermetic Neo-Pythagorean. It's like, I mean, it's basically, it's taken so many Proto-Indo-European elements and absorbed into itself so much of that Christianity may as well, instead of being seen as Abrahamic, it may as well be seen as pagan anyway. Like, what you gonna do? What you gonna do, guys? The little suspected importance of Serapis as a prototype of Christ can be appreciated after a consideration of the following extract from C.W. King's Gnostics and their remains. There can be no doubt that the heads of Serapis, marked as the face, is by a grave and pensive majesty, supplied the first idea for the conventional portraits of the Saviour. Ooh! So the first portraits of Jesus are just Serapis being all pensive and stuff. The Jewish prejudices of the first converts were so powerful that we may be sure no attempt was made to depict his countenance until some generations after all that had beheld it on earth had passed away. Very interesting. Scouse says, Sophia creating the demiurge doesn't vibe with her being a symbol of wisdom. That's an interesting take. I mean, the whole thing with Sophia and wisdom and is creating the demiurge is Sophia then falls. Wisdom has fallen, and we are fundamentally something that must redeem wisdom. And perhaps let wisdom redeem us at the same time. Is this little thing, but it's like that's the whole thing. It's there's something went wrong, and we need to make it right. Another guy talking to esoteric programmer. Talking about meditation. Sophia was nascent at that point. Tyler, John, getting a lot of Joseph Campbell vibes today. I think, did Joseph Campbell read Manly P. Hall? He should have. But he would have liked him. Serapis gradually usurped the positions previously occupied by the other Egyptian and Greek gods and became the supreme deity of both religions. Very interesting. His power continued until the 4th century of the Christian era. In AD 385, Theodosius, the bumface, that would be exterminator of pagan philosophy, issued his memorable edict De Idolo Serapidus Direuendo. When the Christian soldiers, in obedience to this order, entered the Serapeum at Alexandria to destroy the image of Serapis, which had stood there for centuries, so great was their veneration for the god that they dared not touch the image, lest the ground should open at their feet and engulf them. At length, overcoming their fear, they demolished the statue, sacked the building, and finally, as a fitting climax to their offense, burned the magnificent library, which was housed within the lofty apartments of the Serapeum. Single tear for all that has been lost. Several writers have recorded the remarkable fact that Christian symbols were found in the ruined foundations of this pagan temple. Socrates, a church historian of the 5th century, so 5th century Socrates, not Plato's teacher Socrates, declared that after the pious Christians had raised the Serapeum at Alexandria and scattered the demons who dwelt there under the guise of gods, beneath the foundations was found the monogram of Christ. Two quotations will further establish the relationship existing between the mysteries of Serapis and those of other ancient peoples. The first is from Richard Payne, great-grandfather of Liam Payne of One Direction. Liam Payne knights symbolic language of ancient art and mythology. Hence Varro, in De Lingua Latina, I bet it is, says that Colum and Terra, that is, universal mind and productive body, were the great gods of the Samothracian mysteries, and the same as the Serapis and Isis of the latter Egyptians. The Tartos and Astarte of the Phoenicians, and the Saturn and Ops of the Latin. Who is Ops, bruh? Who are the Ops? The second quotation is from Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. Based book, we should read that one day. These, says Martianus Capella in his Hymn to the Sun, dwellers on the Nile adore as Serapis, and Memphis worships as Osiris in the sacred rites of Persia. Thou art Mithraeus in Phrygia. Wait, what? Hold on a second. So Albert Pike says, in his hymn to the sun, dwellers of the Nile adore Serapis. In Memphis, they worship Osiris. So Serapis and Osiris are the same. In the sacred rites of Persia, thou art Mithras. So he's saying that Serapis, Osiris, Mithras are all the same. In Phrygia, Attis. So it combines with the cult of Attis. And in Libya, bows down to thee as Ammon. And Phoenician Bilbos as Adonis. Okay, so Adonis, Attis, Ammon, all connect to Mithras, which connects to Abraxas, which connects to the Gnostic Christ. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, this is hot. This is hot. It's all coming together. Thus the whole world adores thee under different names. Oh, I'm losing it here, guys. My body is ready. And now we're getting Odin in on it? Oh. How long is this? Oh, hello. Baby. Okay, we're gonna finish this. Let's I'm just gonna plow through this baby. The date of the founding of the Odinic mysteries is uncertain. Some writers declaring that they were established in the 1st century before Christ, others the 1st century after Christ. Robert McCoy, 33, based, gives the following description of their origin. It appears from the Northern Chronicles that in 1st century of the Christian era, Sig, the chief of the Aesir, an Asiatic tribe, emigrated from the Caspian Sea and the Caucasus into northern Europe. He directed his course northwesterly from the Black Sea to Russa, from which, according to tradition, he placed one of his sons as a ruler, as he is said to have done over the Saxons and the Franks. He then advanced through Cimbria to Denmark, which acknowledged his 5th son, Skjold, as its sovereign, and passed over to Sweden, where Gilf, I bet she's a Gilf, who did homage to the wonderful stranger, and was initiated into the mysteries then ruled. He soon made himself master here, built Sigtuna as the capital of his empire, and promulgated a new code of law, and established the sacred mysteries. He himself assumed the name of Odin, founded the priesthood of the 12 Drotas, or Druids. Baby. Who conducted the secret worship and the administration of justice, and as prophets revealed nature. The secret rites of these mysteries celebrated the death of Balder, the beautiful and lovely, so the death of the femboy, and represented the grief of gods and men at his death and his restoration to life. It's all about the death and resurrection of femboys. It's all esotericism is. The femboy is the perfect figure, the reconciliation of the masculine and the feminine. Good God. Anime has corrupted. No, anime hasn't corrupted. Anime is an expression of the eternal femboy. Now, after his death, the historical Odin was apotheosized, his identity being merged into that of the mythological Odin, god of wisdom, whose cult he had promulgated. Odinism then supplanted the worship of Thor. So yeah, there's this thing about like Thor, and also Tyr at one point would have been some people say Tyr, the god of war, and Thor would have been the highest kind of sovereign in the Norse pantheon, or sometimes Thor was god of thunder, because usually the thunder, you see Indra, you see Zeus, as the king of the gods, so Thor would have been up there, but instead those guys get demoted. Tyr as a brother, and Thor as basically a junior or a son of Odin, which is a god of wisdom. So this is always interesting, and there are some syncretized Romans who believed Odin to be Hermes, and it's really interesting. I always found that really interesting, because just hold on a second, guys. Coming away from the femboys for a second. Odin being a god of wisdom and the chief amongst the Norse always intrigued me, because we look back at Vikings as just kind of like, duh, you know, Hulk smash, and they just kind of go in and they're like, you know, they're what do you call it? They're gym bros of the ancient world. They just come in and they're uneducated, filthy, you know, barbarians, proto-barbarian like kind of people, but they worship a god of wisdom as their main deity. So it's like we've got them all wrong, and there's actually some philosophy there that's missing, some cult that's missing. Odin is a god of knowledge, wisdom. What's his main myth? It's him crucifying himself, sacrificing himself to himself upside down on the tree, and then taking out his eye and plunging it into the well of knowledge so he can gain knowledge of the future. You know, Cthair, the Ancient of Days, and Kabbalah is one-eyed, and Odin is one-eyed, and he knows everything, and you know, out of the well of knowledge he gets the runes, which may or may not be body postures, and you know, letter magic. There's just all of this sexy stuff. There's a lot of sexy stuff. You know what I'm saying, guys? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, Thunderer, supreme deity of the ancient Scandinavian pantheon. The mound there, according to the legend, King Odin was buried, is still to be seen near the site of the great temple at Uppsala. Uppsala Mikasa. The 12 Drotas, or Druids, who presided over the Odinic mysteries. That's interesting, there's 12 of them, so it's like 12 star signs? Very sussy baka stuff, another guy. Very sussy baka. Exactly, Kimberly. Navigating the oceans before GPS couldn't have been easy. There's even this thing in, you see it in some alchemical texts, they'll just have a boat in the back. And it's like, why is there all this stuff about the boat? Because who is the person on the boat that can direct a boat, and what do they have to do? If you want to navigate a boat, if you want to be a cartographer, a map maker, someone who can lead a boat on the waters, if you're in the middle of the ocean, there's no paths. You're just in empty space, so to speak, floating in empty space. The only thing you got to direct you is the stars, but it's not just that there's stars in the sky. It's when you're in different points in the ocean, the stars that are usually flowing this way are flowing slightly to the side, and you can calculate. So the person who's able to navigate is able to unify the stars and the earth. They're able to bring the heavens and the earth together and use that knowledge to guide you through the astral, through the ocean. So it's like, and what were the Norse Vikings? Expert sailors who crossed the ocean and even made it to America, early America, and like they hung out with the friggin' some Native American tribes before, you know, not falling into ill repute and leaving. But it's crazy. It's crazy that way if you think about it. There's some sussy buck. There's some stuff there. This is esoteric rule 34. If it exists, there's esoteric peepees connecting. Now, evidently personified the 12 holy ineffable names of Odin. Odin had 12 names? Huh. The rituals of the Odinic mysteries were very similar to those of the Greeks, Persians, and Brahmins, after which they were patterned. The Drotas, who symbolized the signs of the zodiac, there you go, were custodians of the arts and sciences, which they revealed to those who passed successfully the ordeals of initiation. Like many other pagan cults, the Odinic mysteries as an institution were destroyed by Christianity. But the underlying cause of their fall was the corruption of the priesthood. Okay, so the priesthood got corrupt, and that allowed the Christians to come in and be like, get your bussy cleansed, boys. Unfortunate, but true. Mythology is nearly always the ritual and symbolism of a mystery school. That's why mythology is so important. Well, one of the reasons. Briefly stated, the sacred drama which formed the basis of the Odinic mysteries was as follows. The supreme invisible creator of all things was called All-Father. His regent in nature was Odin, the one-eyed god. Like Quetzalcoatl, Odin was elevated to the dignity of the supreme deity. According to the Drotas, the universe was fashioned from the body of Ymir, the screaming giant. The Hoarfrost giant? Okay. Ymir was formed from the clouds of mist that rose from Gununga Gap. So Gununga Gap is the void that precedes everything. Once again, very almost Buddhistic, their cosmology. These so-called barbarians. The great cleft in chaos, which the primordial frost giants and flame giants had hurled snow and fire, the three gods, Odin, Vili, and Ve, slew Ymir, and from him formed the world. From Ymir's various members, the different parts of nature were fashioned. After Odin had established order, he caused a wonderful place called Asgard to be built on top of a mountain. How very Mount Olympia. And here the 12 Aesir, or gods, dwelt together, far above the limitations of mortal men. Mountains are the astral world in mythology, by the way. Ein Sof Eo Gununga Gap? Exactly, Tyler, exactly. Richard. Another guy asks, Richard, thoughts on the Uthark? Uthark, good stuff. Look, Edward Thorson has left the Rune Yoga community. I actually think there's something in Rune Yoga, even though it's this reconstruction that everyone's like, it's inauthentic. And I'm like, the same people that say Rune Yoga is inauthentic are the people who like justify that they do rune oracles. We're especially seeing as if runes were used as oracles, they were most likely printed on either like bone or wood, and so we don't actually have any. You know that thing you see like runes on stones? That's never been found in any archaeological site ever. If they did use them as an oracle, it's like, yeah, it would have been on wood or bones. It would have been on these little stone tablets that they would have had their things on, and the oracle systems that we have nowadays, they're just, you know, fantasy kind of reconstructions of people who want to use the runes as a divination system. In that same way, why can't you view rune yoga in that same way? It's like Germanic people in recent centuries basically want to revive their ancient mysteries, and so they take the runes, they use them as body positions and integrate Eastern energetics into them. Why not? Why not, dog? This is the thing which I disagree with people like Survive the Jive on, is paganism, if you want it to truly revive, you can't just do necromancy and be like, you have to practice paganism exactly the way the ancestors did and be beholden unto nothing but archaeology and linguistic sources, or else. And it's like, you're not trying to necromance and resurrect the dead, bro. Because what? Because traditions are organic. Traditions change. Even the Catholic Church, which is staunch and unyielding on their traditions, in the last 300 years, they've changed, what is it? They've changed their exorcism rites like 3 times, 37 times or some bullshit. Multiple times. And it's like, if the Norse had continuous lineages and had continued their paganism, their pagan beliefs, their pagan rites, do you think for a second it would be the same as the stuff you're trying to resurrect? No, they would have interacted with other guys and integrated other things. If the Norse made their way to China or Japan, they would have integrated those anime waifus into their pantheon 100%. Who's to say if an ancient Norse boat didn't like go the other way across over Russia you know, come to the north of Japan and then like go down into China and stole some Taoist inner alchemy manuals and then went back and made it back, if they brought that stuff back, if rune yoga wouldn't have been developed naturally anyway. It's like, and this is the other thing, some people want to go the other way and want to just be like paganism, so this is an open book that I can just do whatever I want and completely violate the symbolism of the gods. There's also a problem with that. Survive the Jive and all those people are doing good stuff, extracting and translating and finding all of the old stuff to have this vague structure. It's almost like that stuff should be a blueprint, but it's just a blueprint, it's not the house. You do need to, in the end, when you construct your rituals, when you start practicing paganism, you do have to change it. You do have to do your thing. There has to be some kind of vitalistic expression, artistic expression that makes it your own. You need the old and the new is you, your inspired thing. Okay, you talk to the gods, and then what do they give you? They give you inspiration. Maybe they give you inspiration to do your ritual in a slightly different way, and it's like, oh, you've deviated from the ancient practices. So what? Who cares? Who cares? Kyle says, who cares? Who cares, bro? Rune yoga, good. And I don't care if people say it's inauthentic or not. It's not authentic to the truth. Suck my sig rune, bruh. Anyway. Esoteric programmer says, I tried so hard to do pagan, but I felt like I passed through it. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Some people do pagan, and then they, as you say, they pass through it and they go into something else. Some people are really attracted by it and they go into it and it feels like they're coming home and they just rest in it. It's very natural for them. Perfect. Don't be a dick and be like, oh, but archaeology says that you're doing the ritual wrong. It should be blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Carl doesn't care. Now, let's go. Let's speed read, lightning round. After Odin had established order on top of the mountain, here 12 Aesir, 12 gods, dwelt far above the limitation of mortal man on this mountain, also known as Valhalla, the palace of the slain, where those who had heroically died fought and feasted day after day. Each night their wounds were healed, and the boar whose flesh they ate renewed itself as rapidly as it was consumed. Ultimate, that would be the ultimate feast. Baldur the Beautiful. Baldur the femboy, the Scandinavian Christ, was the beloved son of Odin. Baldur was not warlike. His kindly and beautiful spirit brought peace and joy to the hearts of the gods, and they all loved him save one. As Jesus had a Judas among his 12 disciples, so one of the 12 gods was false, Loki the Lucifer, the personification of evil. Loki caused Hottir, I'm not sure if that's, there's other ways to say his name, that guy, he's the god that's blind, Baldur's brother, I'm pretty sure, the blind god of fate, to shoot Baldur with a mistletoe arrow. Is he going to get into that? So, for people who don't know, Baldur is invincible, and he's completely indestructible, and the gods play this game because it's funny. Like, if you were to throw a spear at Baldur, the spear would just come to him, and, like, because he's so beautiful, the spear would just, like, come to this, like, around here, and then just, like, float, and then just fall to the ground. Because he's so beautiful, nothing wants to destroy Baldur, so you can throw rocks at him, and they just, like, it's like the Matrix, but he's not even effort, it's just automatic. And fundamentally, one of the reasons that happened is because Baldur's mother went around to everything in the world and whispered and asked all of the things in the world to, would you please never harm my son? And everything agreed. But I think there was one thing she missed, was the mistletoe. And it's either she missed it or like some other entity basically whispered in the mistletoe and was like, no, kill Baldur. And so Loki basically gives the mistletoe to the blind god, so the blind god doesn't know what he's holding, and says, hey, throw this, be a part. And because the blind god is also, he's blind and ugly, and he's Baldur's brother, and so there's this weird thing of like, everyone loves Baldur but they don't like the other guy, and you kind of feel bad for him, and Loki just completely douches him and is just like, here, hold this, throw it at Baldur so you can be part of the laughter. Everyone's throwing stuff at Baldur and everyone's having a laugh. And so he throws the mistletoe, and it just like a spear just goes into Balder and kills him. And that's basically what happens. So Loki, a massive dick move. So think of how bad the brother would feel, his blind brother. Like, ugh. Anyway, with the death of Balder, light and joy vanished from the lives of the other deities. Heartbroken, the gods gathered to find a method whereby they could resurrect this spirit of eternal life and youth. The result was the establishment of the mysteries. So so this is interesting. So then the mysteries are then about bringing Balder back to life, traveling to the underworld and bringing Balder back to life. Another guy says, mistletoe greater than God? No, it's almost like the Achilles and his heel. There's a weak point. And it's just esoteric that the weak point is the mistletoe. The Odinic mysteries were given in underground crypts or caves. The chambers, 9 in number, representing the 9 worlds of the mysteries. The candidate seeking admission was assigned the task of raising Balder from the dead, although he did not realize it. He himself played the part of Balder. I mean, it would make sense if he played the guy. They get like the equivalent, the messenger god, to like go to the Hale region and be like, hey, can we have Balder back? Anyway, he called himself a wanderer. The caverns through which he passed, or maybe that guy's like your guide, like a Virgil, passed were symbolic of the worlds and spheres of nature. The priests who initiated him were emblematic of the sun, the moon, the stars. The three supreme initiators, the sublime, the equal to the sublime, and the highest, were analogous to the worshipful master, the junior, and the senior wardens of a Masonic lodge. Very interesting. Very interesting. After wandering for hours through the intricate passageways, the candidate was ushered into the presence of a statue of Balder the Beautiful, the prototype of all initiates into the mysteries. The figure stood in the center of a great apartment roofed with shields. This just reminds me, like the Mithraic mysteries, there's degrees that you go through, and remember, only men were in the Mithraic mysteries. This is the Roman ones. But like the first was called the Crow, and the second one was called like the Wife, and it's like, and then there's the next one and next one, like the Charioteer and blah blah blah. But the Wife is always interesting. It's like the wife or the woman or something, and it's implied that all men in that degree, you would have to dress up as a woman. So it's like there's a degree where you become a femboy. Really interesting. There's some kind of gender bender femboy mysteries. There really is in the ancient cults. Very interesting. This figure stood in the center of a great apartment roofed with shields. In the midst of the chamber stood a plant with 7 blossoms, emblematic of the planets. Planets, I'm pretty sure. In this room, which symbolized the house of the Aesir, or wisdom, the neophyte took the oath of secrecy and piety upon the naked blade of a sword. He drank the sacrificed mead from a bowl made of a human skull, based, and having passed successfully through all the tortures and trials designed to divert him from the course of wisdom, he was finally permitted to unveil the mystery of Odin, the personification of wisdom. He was presented in the name of Balder, with the sacred ring of the order. He was hailed as a man reborn, and it was said of him that he had died and had been raised again, without passing through the gates of death. Very interesting. Richard Wagner's immortal composition, Der Ring des Nibelungen, the Ring Cycle, is based upon the mysteries of the Odinic cult. Very interesting. Which the great composer took many liberties with the original story. The Ring operas, declared to be the grandest tetralogy of the music dramas the world possesses, have caught and preserved in a remarkable manner the majesty and power of the original sagas. Beginning with Das Rheingold, the action proceeds through Die Valkyrie and Siegfried to an awe-inspiring climax in Götterdämmerung, the twilight of the gods. That's pretty based. I guess that's why Nietzsche named his book Twilight of the Idols. And so here's the 9 worlds. We got Midgard, where we live. Svartalheim, where the dark elves live. Got to get that dark elf. Bussy. Helheim, the true underworld. We got Alfheim, where the elves live, the light elves. The high elves, who are racist. No, just kidding. Asgard, where the gods. Jotunheim, giants. Muspelheim, and Niflheim. Niflheim's cold. Muspelheim is fire. And then there's Vanaheim is the other one, where the Vanir, or the Wanes, live. Really interesting. And they're in the West. The men of the West. 9 worlds of the gods. The Nordic mysteries were given in 9 chambers or caverns, the candidate advancing through them in sequential order. These chambers of initiation represented the 9 spheres into which the Drotas divided the universe. This is interesting because I've also heard that there's more than 9, or in some texts, they'll talk about like a subworld within one of the spheres. So even though there's 9 generally, actually there's a bunch of different worlds that get named at different points, and so it is what it is. Nordic, yes. So first one, Asgard, heaven. Alfheim, world of light, beautiful elves and spirits. Niflheim, world of cold and darkness, located in the north. Jotunheim, the world of the giants, which is located in the east. Midgard, earth, human beings. Vanaheim, where the Vanes live, the Wanes. Muspelheim, world of fire, in the south, which is very interesting. Svartalheim, the world of dark, the treacherous elves. The dark elves, the Drukari. Helheim, the world of cold, the abode of the dead, which is located very low point. One thing that's I always found funny in like the mysteries where they resurrect Balder, there's one bit where it's the messenger god gets sent to Helheim to like talk to Hel, the leader of Hel, so he can like request Balder to come back to Asgard. And when he like goes down to Hell, he like sees Balder. But the description is really funny because Balder is a god of light and he can't not be a god of light and happiness. But in Helheim, there is no light and happiness. It's just darkness, weeping, and gnashing of teeth. And so there's this weird contrast or duality when he looks at Balder. It's like Balder is sitting on a chair and he just has a vague expression because he can't see anything. So it's almost like to Balder, he's just floating in a void. But because he's floating in a void, there's no receptivity and he doesn't even know he's there. He's just absent-mindedly like looking and nothing can touch him. Nothing in Helheim can touch him. And it's just this weird kind of juxtaposition, and like it said that as he's like passing and going towards Hell in this darkness, in the darkness of Helheim, the messenger god like passes and like he passes Balder and Balder like sees him and just kind of like waves and smiles like, oh hey, how's it going, bro? Like as if nothing's wrong. And it's just funny because it kind of gives that vibe of, you know, the meme of like the dog in the house and everything's on fire and Balder's just like, I'm fine with this. Everything is okay. He's just happy just being there. He's just happy being wherever he goes. Just a nice guy. Gotta love Balder. Gotta love Balder. It is to be understood that all of these worlds are invisible to the senses except Midgard, the home of human creatures. But during the process of initiation of the soul of the candidate, liberated from its earthly sheath by the secret power of the priests, wanders amidst the inhabitants of the various spheres. There is undoubtedly a relationship between the 9 worlds of the Scandinavians and the 9 spheres or 9 planes through which the initiates of the Eleusinian mysteries passed in their ritual of regeneration. Pee-pee strong. Ain't that right? Ain't that right, Carl? Yes, yes. And that's it, baby. Next chapter, part 3. Damn, this is hot stuff. God, thank you, Manly. Anyway, we've gone past our hour and a half. So, oh damn, another guy. Your internet died. Sorry, another guy. But yeah, we got, oh, thank you, Tyler. Thank you for the 20. Great read for that Niflheim bussy. PP is FF. Yeah, Dark Elf supremacy is where it's at. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. Them Dark Elf girls, they'll teach you the left hand. But remember, the friggin' well of Mimir that Odin gets all of his knowledge from is Mimir's like a Dark Elf. So the Dark Elves have that deep chthonic knowledge, baby. You gotta go into the underworld to get initiated. You gotta go past the Dark Elves. There's something else. Dark Elves are so interesting. I'm gonna just go off on this little tangent, because the thing is, in the dichotomy of fantasy worlds, there's this archetype of the elves and the orcs. Sorry. Yeah, elves and orcs are really goblins. And what do goblins signify? Goblins signify instinct. There's a great video on YouTube called the Goblin Theory, and he kind of points out how like goblins are our instincts, which is why we kind of love them. They're jovial, but they don't really have the mental qualities, whereas the elves are these kind of astringent, you know, kind of seen as rational. It's really interesting, and they're regal, aristocratic. But even though elves in fairy tale lore, elves are more almost goblin-like, you know, they're tricksters. In high fantasy, elves have become these regal magic users, whereas goblins are this antithesis. I find dark elves interesting because dark elves are a synthesis between the nobility of an elf, but also this dark primal thirst and yearning of a goblin are reconciled in like the Drow or the Dunmer, this cursed race that are highly intelligent, that have the intelligence and the aristocratic nature of the elves, but also they have this darkness and instinctuality about them like a goblin. Very interesting. They're very based on Nietzsche pilled, the dark elves. Anyway, I gotta like we've reached the end of the live stream. We gotta keep things moving, guys. Thank you for joining. Thank you for watching me and Carl read through Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages. If you want to support these streams and learn more about Dark Elves, please consider giving a donation using the stuff in the description. Crypto always helps. Got to avoid taxes, but if not, there's the Ko-fi account for monthly donations. There's becoming a YouTube member, getting access to that secret chat. Thank you all again. Thank you for just coming anyway and listening to my demented goblin ravings. Let's go. See you all next time.